7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Building custom blocks.
12 of the water cooler. Building custom blocks with games.
Building custom blocks.
I'm Jason Tucker. You find me at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
I'm Steve Zangen. I'm the founder of Zeke Interactive. What is up with the birds? Oh my god.
Hi, I'm Say Reed. I do stuff. Say Reed Media. What's up? I do a lot of parent tweeting now. It's true.
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, back at it again on the world's most influential WordPress podcast.
Sounds
Go
like
and subscribe to that podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Maybe not Spotify. Maybe that might go away. We'll see. But yeah, go take a look at that. Steve, I just want to let you know the reason why the birds were still on there for yours is that you didn't get to experience the birds that happened last episode. And I know you're a huge fan of those built-in birds.
I'm not.
I was gonna make a boat go by.
Wait, that's
But I couldn't cut the boat out, so I was like, I'm just gonna leave it.
the boat's for me. The bird's for Steve. Let's be real.
I mean, Steve should have also gotten a pastel duo tone applied to his
Oh,
No.
I should have did that.
No,
Please no.
Tucker gets the pastel dual
Please no.
tone. I get the boat. Steve gets the bird, and you can have some Jason.
Oh, I'll give you the bird.
You know what I want to give the bird to? Y'all,
So-
I know we're talking about ACF specifically today, and that's great
Yes.
because I love me some ACF, but I really sat down with a clean install to do this. I had a release candidate for ACF.
Okay.
I mean, I could sit there and figure it out, but I don't know. This is in no way, zero way, for the layperson. Like, no, it's not. It just is not.
This is slightly developer-y.
It got harder. I don't understand why we're making things harder. I mean, and that it's not ACF's fault, obviously. But anyway, that's what I want to say. Maybe it is ACF's fault.
So let's start there. What were you trying to do?
Oh, so I was just running the simplest test there ever could be. All I did was make a few fields,
Okay.
a checkbox field, a radio box field called, your mom, your face. I made them for you to show them to you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. I wanted to, and I was like, this is so simple. All I want to do, I was stoked. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to so I put the fields into the post. Obs, no problem. Made the field group. So I go to put the date out using 2022, which, and the full site editor. And I'm like, so I'm going to have to, this is what I really want to clarify. I am going to have to open my my web editor, like my HTML editor, whatever the hell you call it.
I think what we're talking about today is an ACF block, and to create an ACF block, you have to add some PHP to your
right.
thing. Yes.
Yeah. There's I was like, I really thought the point here was not having to do that. So I was looking in every little corner to try to find. I was like I must be missing something.
Block button, the create
the
block
button, or the ability to do anything in the template editor that resembled anything, and you can't. There's nothing.
No,
I'm like,
yeah.
There's nothing here. This isn't different. I'm super confused. So basically, you're telling
There's
me
videos of me being very frustrated on Facebook and YouTube that you can watch of me literally just cursing at stupid FSE.
Okay, so let's before we get into full setting, let's discuss what this is first. Okay,
yeah, there's multiple problems. Let's talk about which one we're talking about.
Let's discuss what an ACF block is and what they were trying to solve first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
So when Gutenberg was introduced, right, we had Gutenberg blocks and the ability for developers to create their own custom blocks for Gutenberg. Right, so a block that would show up in the Gutenberg editor that you can use as part of your page or your content. To do that, to create a block,
part of your template. Let's use the terminology correct. Let's anyway. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh God, you broke Steve.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got out. My internet's funny today. So
Not that funny.
to create a block, a Gutenberg block, you have to have knowledge of PHP. You have to have knowledge of React. There's a lot of different skill sets you had to have to be able to create your own block. And so what ACF was trying to solve was a much easier way to do that with just some simple PHP skills. And so they
tried to keep their basic function structure intact so that people didn't have to completely didn't have to completely learn a new language in order to use the tool they were already using.
So I pasted something in the chat. So all you have to do is basically take the little snippet of PHP, put it in your theme, and then you have an ACF block, which is basically an encapsulated thing that you can install within that basically shows up in Gutenberg, and then you in ACF have control over all the fields that appear within that block.
Right.
Yes.
I guess
that's what an ACF block is.
And that's great. And it's obviously needed. Really, my what I was thinking I was getting was just the block. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure why we have to go make a block in order for there to be a block. But
I'll tell you why. That's a great question. So the first part of go back to the screen share, Jason. So the first part in the one piece there is the registering of a block. Right. And so the register of a block is pretty straightforward. All you're doing is basically saying, okay, I now have a new block. It's on. Is this the link I sent you?
Yeah.
It's down the page a little bit. It says number 1, register block. There it is. So that code is pretty straightforward. You really just copy and paste it. Right. Then you add your ACF fields. Number 3, which is further down, that's the part that you need to really do. That's basically all the CSS and the front end rendering. That's where the developer part comes in, because however the block's going to display is up to you. And so you have to go in here and create the front end piece of the block here. So they're giving you an example, but that's the hard part of this.
Yeah, here's where you're getting all your fields and defining them as variables.
The real problem here is that because there are really good builders out there that are already pulling dynamic data from ACF, I essentially forgot that you had to build your own. I mean, and I didn't totally forget, because last week I was building my own repeater field display code, whatever. So I've been building also, but again, I just really expected this to be like ready for the next step. But ACF is still very much not.
This is what I ran into when I was
testing. I had to refresh my memory for this episode, just because I forgot. And so it's not. Yeah, this is not plug and play.
Yeah,
it's not that kind of a solution.
I think the ACF blocks is basically just keeping things at par, like keeping things that you can still use your stuff. So my question then to
only for new blocks that you
and
create,
the general, blogosphere out there, is what are you guys doing with your block? Is there anything super cool that is happening with these ACF blocks that was not happening previously?
So what's happened? So the news, and the reason we're talking about this now, is because before in ACF 5.11, which is the current stable version of ACF, you can use these blocks within the release candidate that's about to come out for ACF. Is it 6 or 5.12 or whatever the next
5.12?
Yeah.
7,
so 5.12.
4.
So 5.12,
8.
they now have extended that into full site editing. So those blocks that you create now show up in the full site editor. That's the difference.
Yeah, I feel I feel for ACF. That's basically what I do. I feel for them.
I actually feel for any WordPress plugin at this point.
Yeah, it's like working so hard to just keep things usable, as opposed to working hard to create innovation. Because
I think the ACF thing's good because it's gonna make it so people who are making new blocks will be able to make new blocks. The problem I was having is that if I didn't want to use ACF blocks, their own block, you can't use ACF in anything in Gutenberg. Like there's just no functionality. There's no place to be like, hey, give me a field, make it display in this thing.
Why?
Let me use a color picker, throw that in there.
Not?
You
Why?
can. Well, I'll tell you why. You
This is a data
can.
problem, isn't
You
it?
actually can. It just shows up in a very weird spot, right? So
Uh.
where it showed up in Classic Editor in a very inline, right? And it was a panel that you could move around, and it was part of the system. And now in Gutenberg, it shows up at the bottom in that little.
Oh yeah. No, I know that
You
exists.
know?
Yeah, no, he means like
I
displaying.
want to take
the
a
data.
block of like text. I want to make a header. Take a header, grab it in there, drop it in there, and then assign that to a field, and then be done.
We're not there yet.
Divi, Gutenberg,
Yeah, we're not-
Divi, and Beaver Builder both could do that.
Yeah,
So,
you need to use Squarespace.
exactly. This is what I'm saying. Like, so
Squarespace.
why are you laughing? I'm freaking out.
All right, I think we need to definitely talk about more ACF stuff. We could bitch a lot about.
No,
about
this is a good conversation because I read the same press releases that you all read.
Yeah,
I got excited because I was like, oh, cool! It's now easy.
No,
It's not.
It's not. And this is what
Sorry,
okay,
I
I'm
cut you
not
off.
making it about full site editing, but I think maybe there's like an infection happening where everyone's like, oh, this is like, it's honestly, it's got web, like it's not Web 3, right? But it's Web 3 style hype where it's like, oh, this is so cool. This
Is
is so
ACF now on the blockchain? I don't understand.
block
the other blocks. The blocks are the hippest blocks. No, but like the Web3 is all like, yeah, this is changing the world, whatever, NFTs. And then you go there and you're like, there's not a lot. There's not a lot here. You know what I mean? Like there's not, it's like it like disappears into ephemera, right? And it's the same thing.
All hat, no cattle.
Oh, exactly. And that's the same thing that's happening with full site editing. They're like, dun, da, here's 5.9, you can do whatever. And it's like, just kidding, only in like 30 themes and also not really very well at all. And then ACF blocks is like, or ACF is like, you can do blocks. Here it is, except for you have to edit your PHP template files, and it's actually more complicated, and it's not straightforward at all, and you have to be more of a developer, but you don't have to use React, so that's good.
I like this two voice thing you got going on.
Little do we know.
That was me. That was my like.
Let's give Cosper the floor. He was going to say something.
No, well, it's funny because I was going to spin into let's hear what Tucker has had to go through because he's been working on rebuilding the water cooler site in Gutenberg.
Which has
ACF,
so the water cooler site is a good example because it has a lot of custom field data in the form of show information like who's been on the show, topics, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, I have all sorts of stuff, but none of it's working the way that I would love it to work.
Right.
I'm going what you are now going through right now. Say is what I'm going through.
I'm not going through anything. I'm
going to make a block. All right, let's make a block.
No.
And then it's funny. I'm watching you guys through our text messages throughout the week. You guys are talking about various like.
We're talking about various. He hasn't been on the show in a long time.
But you guys are talking about these different types of plugins that will make an ACF block type of thing that would show up on the screen. None of them are working right.
No,
none of them are there yet. And a lot of them don't have the capabilities, for instance, like a color picker. The color picker still doesn't work right because it has to run in an iframe, and you end up with like all this like issues with Shadow DOM and whatnot, and it becomes like a whole thing. So JavaScript sucks, dude. It is so difficult for somebody to try to pull off what they're trying to pull off, and I'm hopeful that we'll get there.
Because the color pickers aren't working though. This is like some basic stuff. This is like Word document level functionality. And
this is the problem. This is the problem with the WordPress ecosystem, right? They don't control the ecosystem. It's a platform with a whole bunch of third-party technologies.
Right.
So Matt and team are trying to move the platform forward as quick as possible, right? But all those third parties can't move that fast. And the problem with something like an ACF is they're gonna get this all ready for full site editing, and then the next thing's gonna be available, right? Right? It's gonna be ready to go, and here it is for full site editing. And now here's the next new thing's gonna be announced, and we're just gonna keep cycling like this.
Well, because I feel like ACF just like kind of caught up its own meta boxes on the Gutenberg side, like from like the original block editor conversion, let alone full site editing. So like, I I think that
the cadences, is it cadences? What's the plural of cadence? The cadences.
cadency?
They don't match.
I was going to say, really, to invoke friend of the program, Scott Kingsley Clark, like if only the Fields API had happened when he was pushing for it, 5 years ago, longer, that we wouldn't be running into some of these problems right now. We would maybe have something a little more robust. Maybe Gutenberg or the full site editing wouldn't have shipped yet because everything wasn't baked, because there was also would be a Fields API to contend with, but we might be in a better position.
But they're also shipping the versions of WordPress are coming out so fast, and they're shipping these half-baked ideas, right, in versions of WordPress. So I almost think it'd be better to completely develop a feature, release it, let it sit for a while, right, and then you can work on fixes, but let the plugins catch up to what, or the third parties catch up to what was just released.
Yeah, they're relentless. I want to talk real quick about the I just put this. I don't know how you can get that on the screen. This quote, I just pulled it from the ACF documentation. Not to keep ranting.
We could just read it.
You want to read it in your voice? Read it in your voice, Steve.
No, you're doing the two voices, but WordPress saves block data as HTML comments in the post content. Post underscore. Oh, there we go, Jason. ACF blocks follow suit and save their data as a JSON object with that HTML comment.
Okay.
Fun.
First of all, let's parse the sentence. No, let's not parse the sentence. My point. So I already, back in the day, I had problems with ACF data because I used to, again, back in the day, just pull fields, right? When you would make, before ACF, you could just make manual custom fields and then you just pull the data and it was the value was there, right? And then ACF has their, what would you call it? Serialized data, undecoupled data, right? Where it's
that's a double negative, but sure.
Yeah, so and you couldn't just pull it anymore, right? You had to have the kind of the translator of ACF, right? And then this is essentially now that level of serialization inside one table, one column, one column, one thing. So I know that we've talked about how ugly, let's just say even ugly, the block editor data looks, right? It's got these it's like HTML but with extra,
it's a markup. Yeah.
extra stuff going on, and really
comment-based markup.
It's reading comments in straight code, right? So I haven't looked at this, and this is probably, so I'm just kind of putting it out there, but is the serialized data still inside the post content table, separately? Is that what's happening?
Your ACF data?
Yeah, because now it's saying the ACF is saving their data as a JSON object in the HTML comment. So
I'll have to look.
Saving the serialized data in that thing, and it's two things removed. Is that what's happening?
I will have to look.
Will you look? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know where to look for that, honestly. I guess in a database, but I don't have.
You'd want to look in the database with where a block is being used, and then if it has an ACF block, how is it storing in that comment? It's probably a big blob in that comment of just stuff.
Does anyone feel bad about the data tangles we are creating? Everyone's shortcode
from day one.
Worst thing that ever existed.
You talking about the technical debt we're incurring?
I mean, we're the technical debt of Web3 is nothing to a post in WordPress now. What is happening? I don't understand. I thought we were all upset for a long time about the fact that everything was using shortcodes, and then that shortcodes wouldn't degrade properly, and now we've got shortcodes on steroids.
Well,
and then you add
it gets worse because if you go and try to copy text that's in not full site editor but just in a block editor, copy that and then go to just send it to somebody as an email. like, oh, look, here's the text.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna say,
no, you need what was that old filter?
so I have to preview the page first, highlight all the text, and then send it.
What's that filter? What's that filter in Tiny MCE where they strip out all the word data?
It needs to be the opposite.
You basically need that.
But like this is what. But okay, so there is. I know I've heard a lot of people like kind of ringing this bell and saying this is bad, but like, why is it good? Like, I don't get why it's good. Like, how is this good? How is this?
Because
building
early
for
on,
the future, anything.
Yeah. It's because early on they thought it was a good
idea
idea to make these block patterns that you could copy and then paste, and you guys were super excited about it. And the whole time I'm listening to you guys talk about these block patterns that you could copy and paste in there. I'm like, why are you copying a bunch of like literally comments and then pasting them into the page so that you can get a column? And Say was stoked about columns. Oh, I can put a column in the thing, and it's
no,
like
that is incorrect.
You were
There's never been a you go back to the tape. There's never been a time I was excited about block pattern.
You were stoked about being able to put columns in there as block patterns.
However, I do think columns are important. I think they're a fundamental layout tool. That like was invented with the newspaper and books. Like there's like in the Gutenberg Bible, there are columns. So I am not really sure how this is.
But what happened when they looked at it in the Pocket Edition? That's what I want to know.
Like I don't.
Did they make it one column in the Pocket Edition, or did they do
the Pocket Edition's all short codes?
The Pocket Edition of the Gutenberg Bible.
Yeah, it's just all short codes.
Just wanted to be clear about what we were talking about now. Just that we've oh look, Jim thinks short codes are cool. Well, look, I'm now I think short codes look tidy. That's what I'm saying.
Heck yeah, like, they're way
like so how are we not going backwards? How like ACF didn't get easier.
We are going
editing
backwards.
Is getting messier.
Seems like we are going backwards.
It's typical. We don't.
That went on stage.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are you expecting us to learn from our past mistakes? That's ridiculous.
I'm just so confused as to how everyone's like, this is the future, and I'm like, the future is gunky.
No, the future is the metaverse.
The metaverse, why does that break my brain? I believe very strongly in the whole concept of the website.
Team this week. What he named his team members the meta people or something.
Who did?
It's Mark.
Metis? I can't remember. I heard this morning.
Yeah, I'll think of it. Yeah.
I've stopped listening to any news about that because that is my dog's name, and until she passes away, which will be sometime in the near future, I refuse to acknowledge it. So he can just talk all he wants. I was
Metamates.
Metamates.
I looked up at the same time. They're Metamates. Metamates.
And people that work for Coinbase are Coinbase.
Oh God.
AES.
All right. Did I think I've said this on the show before. I went on a tour of Facebook's offices one time a couple years ago, and they had all these, inspirational posters on the wall, and the one and postcards you could take. And the one I remember and I think about all the time, it like haunts me, is one that was just really big, red with block lettering, and it said, "Every day feels like a week."
That's not good.
And I was like, this sounds like torture.
Yeah.
It was
it's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, that's what I said all the time during the lockdown. It's like, God, this week has been a long year.
Yeah, but anyway, that's what Facebook's up to.
I love that. I love that we realize that ACF and block editor and all that stuff is kind of screwed up. Like it's trying to live in a space that's just not built correctly. Like, ACF is trying to get things to work in this weird comment.
They're doing their best.
By the way, nothing.
No fault ACF.
So we're not faulting ACF.
No, we're actually very proud of them.
Everything right.
I mean, I've been sending them emails nonstop saying, "Hey, can you add this feature? Can you add this feature?" And they're like, "That's not really part of what we do." Like,
yeah.
It's like, but who's going to put it in there?
Them for their work, and I apologize to them on behalf of whatever the hell it is WordPress is doing right now. That's all I have to say, because they're making everyone's ACF is not, but full site, like they're trying to bridge the gap to make this the tools that we've come to rely on to create sites that are not just the basic run of the mill, or even basic run of the mill, because fields are pretty essential. But they're trying to make that doable, and I appreciate their work. So thanks, ACF peeps, for fighting the good fight out there.
Be in the metaverse.
See over with the meta mates. It'll be real cool.
Steve, at what point in your pipeline of work that you have going on here are you going to then say we are now going to start building sites using full site editor?
Not anytime soon.
Would you, if you had to like guess, is this 5 years? Is this 3 years? Is this 6 months?
I have no idea, because we build all of our themes from scratch. So full site editor doesn't even enter into our conversation.
Yeah, like why would anyone give their client this is probably the fundamental problem with full site editing and ACF compatibility. If you're using ACF, you're probably building a site for someone else. Just probably. Well, you might use it for yourself, but that's only like a couple of sites at max, right? So like if you are building a site for someone else and you don't need full site editing, because you're not going to give them control of that site, because the whole reason you're there is to build the site so they don't have to worry about template parts and query loops.
Adding WooCommerce that's going to be awesome.
That's what ACF is for. It's for custom content to match your client's workflow.
Right.
That's what it's meant for.
Right. So I don't know. Maybe this is the problem with full site. We're all just marching down the full site editing train. Well, we're not. I'm not either. But like, okay, but why?
I'm over in the metaverse.
How does this feature? How does it square? Like, who's using full site editing and ACF blocks? And editing template parts and whatever. Like, who is this? Who is this unicorn of a person?
Do-it-yourselfers.
Yeah, that's small. I mean, this has nothing to do with ACF, but I keep going back to the fact that full site editing is for WordPress.com, and that's it. But
well, and there's plenty of other like custom field plugins that are not ACF, that are ACF's competitors, that are also having to deal with this stuff as well.
Yeah,
that's actually a good point. Is there any I haven't, because just ACF is such a
what is the other
standard.
One? It's actually mentioned in the article. What's the I forget.
Yeah, I use what I use.
Yeah.
What do you forget?
The ACF competitor. It'll come to me right after the episode ends. I'll pop in my head.
Well, you can tweet it.
Well,
yeah. But so I actually, and so that's a good point, because I have not looked at other custom field options that are out there, and maybe they're doing something that is simpler, where you can just display a field in a block. Like, this is what I want, right? If I were actually trying to just make this easy for a user, I would want to be able to pull in, and this is what I was looking for, a block that says custom fields, and then it says you got a little drop down, and then it just gives you a list of the custom fields you want to pull, and then you can choose if you want the value or the label or both.
The limitation
I love that I love that Say is going down the same rabbit hole that I was going down, and I'm just watching her go further and further down it, and I'm like, sorry,
that's not where the limitation is. The limitation is not in ACF. It's in the meta box structure. It's in the post meta structure.
Right, because you can't pull it out. Right, you can't pull out that data.
Right.
Oh, look, Cosper found all the other tools they were looking for. And Steve froze again.
There's Jet Engine, Pods, Toolset.
I'm going to check out some of them and see if they square with the editor and see if that works. But I'm still in my belief that the full site editor is a confused function.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that way about Gutenberg. I thought Gutenberg was poorly released, but I thought it had potential. Since I've read this book already,
Since I've read this book already, I'll give you a head start. So go download Cadence, the Cadence plugin, and then pay for the pro version of it. And then they will give you the smallest amount of functionality that you can actually select an ACF field. And then you're like, why isn't everybody else doing this?
Yeah, no, and that's
no one else. No one else is.
So you can pull a custom field and just display a value in a
and
label.
only their blocks.
All right. Well, thanks, Caden.
Womp womp. Yeah. I
Womp
mean, it's great for
doo-doo-dah.
them. I mean, I love that they built it and it was a lot of work for them to build it, but it's that's it.
Why isn't
That's as far
ACS
as you can
building
go.
it?
I
Look
asked
at
the same
time.
thing.
Will you look at the time?
Look at the time.
Oh my
6
gosh.
seconds after.
We're in such a weird.
Steve has a golf date. He needs to go. So
I love you all. I love you all out there listening. I love you all in here. I feel Valentine's
boy.
Eve. Thanks for being part of it and listen to us rant.
here's our outro. And that outro, you can go to wpwatercooler.com/subscribe. Go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, even YouTube. Go take a look at them. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.